Welcome to another edition of The Word. I'm happy to have you here with me today. I see no one's put any suggestions yet in the comments, so hey, we're going to keep on going. We're going to do our best, just like we've been doing, to continue to spread the Word of God, as God has tasked me to do. Well, lately, folks, the big scare has been the coronavirus. Yeah, who hasn't heard that? I mean, it's all you hear on the news, right? It's got man talking once again in fear about the end of days. So, this week's topic will be, is Corona a sign of the end? Yeah, I know we've covered this topic before, but are we facing that horrific end as described in Revelations? It seems that's all we're hearing about anymore on the news. Corona this, Corona that, all the people dying. Is it a sign of the end? Well, in a word, no. We're not even close. The Bible, though it may not be an absolutely literal book, has made it clear that the end of times is going to be very, very horrific. But, let me break it down, and I'm going to try to put things in perspective for you so you can see this for yourself. Okay? So, first we have the breaking of the 7 seals and the release of the 4 horsemen. In Revelation chapter 6, verses 1 and 2, it says, I watched as the Lord opened the first of the 7 seals. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, Come! I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow, and he was given a crown, and he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. Well, realistically, this has already happened many times over, throughout our history. Prime example would be Hitler, the most recent to attempt world domination through conquest. His bloodshed is well known. So moving on to Revelation chapter 6, verse 3 to 4. When the Lamb opened the 2nd seal, I heard the 2nd living creature say, Come! And then another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make people kill each other. Well, to him was given a large sword. Well, that certainly is happening, right? I mean, we've got 2 down that we're go. I mean, you can't argue the fact that these things have already come to pass. People have been killing each other, though, since the time of Jesus, the Romans. I mean, we were killing each other then. So these first 2 signs only seem to prove that the end is an ongoing and very slow process. So, moving on, in Revelation chapter 6, verses 5 to 6, when the Lamb opened the 3rd seal, I heard the 3rd living creature say, Come! I looked, and there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the 4 living creatures, saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages, 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil or the wine. Well, yeah, got plenty of booze and alcohol, and we certainly do have based much of the world's oil on the world's oil supply. I mean, the whole Iraq war, which resorted from the orchestrated 9/11 attack, that was all to keep oil flowing, and mostly to keep money going into the Bush pockets. Yeah, one cannot deny this sign, though, has already come to pass, and this is about as far as we get, though. Now, why do I say that? Well, in Revelation chapter 6, verses 7 to 8, it says, When the Lamb opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, Come! I looked, and there before me was a pale horse, and its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. And they were given a power over 1/4 of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. Now, think about it. Here one might say, yeah, look at Corona. But think about it. Currently, The world population is about 7.6 billion people. So 1/4 of that would be about 190 million people. And that's nowhere near the death toll of the coronavirus. Put it in another perspective for you. World War II, the entire total death of World War II was 60 million. That's the Jews, the civilians, the soldiers, the Germans, the Americans, the Japanese, the French, the Italian, everybody combined. 60 million in that horrible war. So we're talking roughly 3 times the people that died in total in World War II when this 4th seal has been opened. Okay? Hasn't happened. And these seals, they're just the tip of the iceberg. Revelation chapter 6, verses 8 to 9. When he opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain, and because of the word of God and the testimony they had maintained. They called out in a loud voice, "How long, sovereign Lord, holy and true, how long until you judge the inhabitants of the earth and avenge our blood?" Well, okay, you could argue maybe that one's happened, even though it'd be out of order. It's another vague sign. It could happen anytime, because really in history, we've been wondering how long and when the final days are going to be forever, since the time of Jesus. It's always been, we wonder. Now in Revelation chapter 6, verses 12 to 14, it says, I watched as he opened the 6th seal, and there was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair, and the whole moon turned blood red, and the stars in the sky fell to earth as figs drop from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. Now the heavens receded like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Now, this would be like maybe a volcano, and it would have to be like a super volcano, however, to affect the whole earth. But if you think about it, the ash cloud placed in the atmosphere, it would indeed dim the sun, and it would turn the moon red. The magnetic tremors would be everywhere. You'd feel those. But this has happened in the past, but it was like 60,000 years or so ago, and another one is due, though. It's due any time, an unknown time. Does that kind of sound familiar to you? We don't know when. And finally, there is Revelation chapter 8, verse 1. When he opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. Now, in verse 5, it continues, and then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and hurled it down on the earth. And there came peals of thunder rumblings, and flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. Well, think about a big ball of fire falling down from the sky onto the earth. That could only be a comet or a meteor striking the earth. Amongst other things, this would indeed cause rumblings. There would be a lot of static charge, so there'd be lightning. There would certainly be earthquakes, probably fire. And this is another catastrophic event that has occurred in the past and will occur again sometime. And interestingly, this event leads directly into the first trumpet. So as you can see, we've not even got through the first 7 seals, much less Armageddon. And there's so much more to come before Armageddon. Next up are all the trumpets. Okay, first of which, like I said, it emphasizes that meteor strike at the 7th seal. It speaks of hail and fire in the sky, followed by a third of the earth burned up. It hasn't happened. The second trumpet, it speaks of yet another meteor strike, a huge mountain striking the sea. Would be a meteor, and it kills a third of all the life in the sea. That certainly hasn't happened. The third trumpet speaks of a third meteor, perhaps maybe even a nuke. I don't know. But it destroys all the fresh water, well, a third of the fresh water, makes it bitter, undrinkable. Now all this dust and debris from those catastrophes I just mentioned in the atmosphere, that's going to point to darkness. And that's what the fourth trumpet speaks of. The earth being dark. It's going to be something like the Twilight Zone. You know, there's going to be no doubt that this is happening, folks. It's not going to be an, ooh, is this happening thing? We're going to know it. The fifth trumpet brings forth hordes of horrific mutant locusts with stinging tails like scorpions. I mean, just imagine your worst nightmare coming to life. This is followed by the sixth trumpet and a great drought. And then the four angels kill twice 10,000 times 10,000. Folks, that's another 200 million people that die. I think we're going to notice these things. Finally, the seventh trumpet is sounded, and yet another earthquake occurs. So after all that has come, then, and only then, does the Antichrist appear. So until all that's happened, we don't even need to think about the Antichrist. Revelation chapter 13, verses 11 to 13. Then I saw a second beast coming up out of the earth. It had two horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf, and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. This beast came out of the sea. And it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from the heaven to the earth in full view of the people. So, you know, the true Antichrist, that's another thing. We've seen all these so-called Antichrists, but the true one's going to be a great deceiver. It's going to perform miracles, just like Jesus did. It's going to try to fool people into thinking it is Jesus. So, this hasn't been the case so far. Okay? None of these, even Hitler. I mean, Hitler was nasty and mean and evil, but he wasn't an Antichrist. He didn't perform miracles. He did none of that stuff. So now, is it the end of days? Nope. We're only just getting started, even though the Antichrist is now upon the earth. The Antichrist has, 7 years of reign during which the 7 bowls are served. Yeah, that's right. Get to have dinner. Bowl number 1. Those that have the mark of the beast get ugly, festering sores. They break out all over them. And that's what they get for worshiping the beast, though. Bowl number 2. Every living thing in the sea dies. So the other 2/3, now they're all gone. There's no life in the sea. Bowl 3. All the fresh water, the other 2/3 of fresh water, turn to blood. Bowl 4. The ozone layer is gone. The sun, you walk outside, man, you get scorched. You get burned. Radiation. Bowl number 5. The great darkness and depression, yeah, I wonder why, affects all who are left alive. They're in pain and despair. I mean, it's bad. Bowl number 6 is another drought, specifically the Euphrates. Finally, in Revelation chapter 16, verses 17 to 21, the 7th angel poured out his bowl into the air. And out of the temple came a loud voice from the throne, saying, "It is done." Then there came flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, and a severe earthquake. I mean, no earthquake like it has ever occurred since mankind has been on the earth. This is straight from the Bible. So tremendous was the quake that the great city split into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations collapsed. God remembered Babylon the Great, and gave her the cup filled with the wine of the fury of his wrath. Every island fled away, and the mountains could not be found. I mean, this is a major earthquake. From the sky, huge hailstones, each weighing about 100 pounds, fell upon people. And they cursed God on the account of the plague of hail, because the plague was so terrible. People still couldn't figure it out. So this would be a final and massive volcanic eruption, or perhaps multiple supervolcanoes triggering a massive earthquake bigger than anything we've ever seen, raining huge boulders down on people. Really epic stuff that you see in the movies. I mean, that's what we're looking forward to. Now here's an eye-opener. Revelation chapter 17 verses 1. One of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the punishment of the great prostitute who sits by many waters." Now, guess who that's talking about? Well, I believe personally that refers to the good old US of A. Why? Because we're rich, we're prideful, we're corrupt, we're a superpower, and we happen to be surrounded by many waters. The Atlantic, the Pacific, Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of San Francisco, the Great Lakes. So the USA must fall first. We're going to see the USA go poof. And it's going to be violent, as we see in Revelation chapter 18, verse 21. Then a mighty angel picked up a boulder the size of a large millstone and threw it into the sea, and said, "With such violence the great city of Babylon will be thrown down, never to be found again." So surely now it's time for that final battle, the end of days, right? Nope. We have about 1,000 more years to go. Yep. Revelation chapter 20, verse 4. I saw thrones on which were seated those who had been given authority to judge, and I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of their testimony about Jesus, and because of their word of God. They had not worshipped the beast or its image, and had not received its mark on their foreheads or their hands. They came to life and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. So we're going to have a great resurrection of all who do not side with the Antichrist. 1,000 years of peace and joy with the Lord here. Now, this is going to be also epic and undeniable, and it's going to last 1,000 times. For those who don't get it, you're going to have long enough time to figure it out. Then, in Revelation chapter 20, verses 7 to 10, when the 1,000 years are over, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations in the 4 corners of the earth again, Gog and Magog, and to gather them for battle. In number, in the sand, on the seashore, they march across the breadth of the earth, surrounded the camp of God's people, that's Israel, the city that he loves, Jerusalem. Then fire came down from heaven and devoured them, and the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet had been thrown. So they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. So, you can see all this is in the very distant future. If the 4th seal were opened today, it would be a minimum of another 1,007 years from now. So way too much time is spent contemplating the end of days. It's not something we're meant to ponder and worry about. God doesn't want this. Your own death is going to come sooner than Armageddon. And this is why we should concentrate on the now. Be right with God now and every minute forward. Coronavirus is going to come and go. Have faith in God. Be smart. He'll protect you. Or if it's your time, he's going to summon you. So you need to be ready with God in your heart always. So you never know what tomorrow will bring. But folks, all you have to do, really, all you got to do is let God in your heart, follow the path that he set for you, And if you do this, you're going to realize that death is but a door to go be with God. You're no longer going to fear the end of days. You're going to look forward to being with God. So, folks, I want to thank you for joining me today, and I hope I've touched the heart of just one person. If just one viewer turns to God, it's a wonderful thing. Remember, God is calling to you. He waits patiently at the door of your heart. He wants to be in your heart. And it does not matter how tainted your past. Just look at me. Until next time, God bless you.